Members, officers, visitors and members of the public. I am Councillor Elliot Jays and I will be chairing this evening's meeting. The meeting will be recorded and proceedings will be conducted in accordance with the Council's constitution, including procedural rules which are available on the Council's website. Item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. There is no planned evacuation drill this evening, and accordingly, if the alarm sounds, it's treated as a genuine need to evacuate. The emergency exits are to my right and down the stairs, and to my left and down the stairs. On exiting, you'll be directed to the assembly points, and it's important that you remain there and do not return to the building until I've announced it is safe to do so. If anyone will need assistance in evacuating, could you please inform me now so we can make the necessary arrangements to assist. Please do not use the lifts. Members must consider each application and everything that is said in the meeting concerning the application and make the decision based solely on their planning judgment and the information available to them. Following the decision by members, delegated authority is given to the planning officer to issue the decision notice. Planning permission is not granted or refused until the issuing of that decision notice. Any member of the council who is not a member of the planning committee may attend as a visiting member and may speak having given prior notification. Such visiting members may of course include ward members, and whilst visiting members can speak on an application, they are not permitted to vote. Any member acting as a substitute on the planning committee must have undertaken appropriate training before doing so. Members must remain in the meeting for the whole time that each item is being debated and should not vote on the item unless they have done so. I'd now like to invite our public speakers and remind you that I have 3 minutes to speak and an audible warning of time will be given when there's 30 seconds remaining. If the meeting is deferred to conduct a site meeting, you may speak both at the meeting and at the site meeting and when it comes back to planning committee. We'll generally follow the order set out in the agenda, however we'll take item 9 first as it has public speakers. Item 2, apologies for absence please.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Mike Baldock, who is substituted by Councillor Chris Palmer, from Councillor Kieran Golding, who is substituted by Councillor Anne Kavanagh, from Councillor Julian Speed, who is substituted by Councillor Mark Tucker, and from Councillor Karen Watson, who is substituted by Councillor Angela Harrison. Thank you.
Apologies from Councillor Andy Booth as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Next up is item 3, and that's to approve the minutes. First, we'll take the extraordinary meeting held on the 6th of June. Is everyone happy that I sign them as a true record? And then we take the meeting on the 15th of August. Is everyone happy I sign them as a true record? Okay. Next is to invite members' declarations. Is there any disclosable pecuniary interest, please? No. Okay. Any disclosable non-pecuniary interests? Okay. I would like to remind the meeting that where it's possible that a fair-minded and informed observer, having considered the facts, would conclude that there was a real possibility that a member might be predetermined or biased on any agenda item, the member should declare that possibility and then leave the room while the item is considered. So we'll now take Part B reports. I'd like to say that item 7 has been withdrawn following the Parish Council withdrawing their objections. We'll now take item 9. So 2.4, application number 24/500664 Full, Clifton, Stockers Hill, Rodmersham. I'd like to invite the planning officer to provide a summary and update.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. There's no update to this application, so I'll take you through the proposal. Just to clarify, the application is for the demolition of the existing garage and conservatory and the erection of a 2-storey side extension and single-storey rear extension, a new front porch and alterations to fenestration, a loft conversion with the insertion of a front dormer window and 5 roof lights to the rear, and the erection of a detached double garage. So in terms of the proposal, so the red line shown is the application site. What the blue line does is indicate other land that the applicant owns. So as you can see, it's situated in a row of properties on Stockers Hill within the built-up area boundary of Rodmersham. So this is the existing ground floor plan of the existing property, with the property here and the existing garage, which is proposed to be demolished, sitting to the side of the property. So the first floor, again, you can see the property there and the garage on the left-hand side. So here's the existing elevations. So a detached property, 2-storey. Again, you can see the garage there, which is single-storey on the side of the property. Conservatory on the rear, also proposed to be demolished. So in terms of the proposal, the side extension will replace where the garage is, but doesn't extend as far to the side as the garage, but obviously is higher on the basis that it's 2-storey. And as you say, it continues at first floor level. The rear extension at the back of the property, and then the loft conversion, which incorporates the dormer to the front and the roof lights to the rear. So in elevation form, that's what we get. On the left-hand side of the top left drawing is where the 2-storey side extension is proposed to be located. Pitch roof dormer towards the central part of the roof, and you can see the garage there on the bottom right there. I will show that on its own in isolation shortly. And there's the rear extension, single-storey, which doesn't go across the whole of the rear elevation. You can start to see that the side 2-storey side extension is tapered, and that's to maintain a 2-metre gap to the boundary. So garage, double garage, single-storey, pitched roof, and that will be proposed to be located to the front of the property. I'll zoom in on this one because it's the block plan. Oops. Okay. Yeah. So there's the tapered 2-storey element, which maintains that gap to the boundary. The rear extension, single-storey, and there is the proposed garage to the front of the property. The trees, that larger tree there is existing. It's a chestnut tree. You'll see it on the photos in a second. The other trees and planting is indicative, which is secured by condition if planning permission is granted. So these are the 3D images of the proposal I was just discussing, with the existing on the left-hand side and the proposed on the right. Again, some of this planting is indicative, shown in the top right drawing. And then moving on to the photographs of the site, here's the rear of the property. From the front, so there's that existing tree which I just referred to. So the 2-storey element would go over here on the left-hand side. The detached garage, approximately where the white van is. And in terms of the street scene, so that's looking back towards the application site. You can see the white van there, and then obviously the large tree, which is a obviously attractive feature of the street scene. This is a photo to show that there are some, although obviously it's very clear to see that the frontages of these properties are spacious, and the properties are set back, that there is a garage which projects forward of the property around 23, I think, metres away from the application site, I think it is. So it's just to show that sort of element of the street scene. This is taken from further back and shows effectively, you can see the tree there, but effectively shows the sort of amount of planting in the street scene. And then this photo is going the other way, with the site in front of us there, and then the photo looking down Stockers Hill. So, in summary, the application is recommended for approval for the reasons set out in the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite our first public speaker, Eddie Powell, please.
Good evening, Chairman and members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in favour of this application. Any application such as this can only be determined by council policy, and therefore I can only agree with the officer's report just now, which I thought was extremely thorough, and obviously I agree with his recommendation. So on the basis of all the comments received from all the consultees, and I've taken into consideration the parish council, everything is compliant with ST3, CP4, DM14 and DM16 of the local plan. So on the basis of that, I kindly request that this application is granted permission. The conditions are accepted accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite our next speaker, Firma North, please.
Good evening, members and chair. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you I am the neighbour. I live in Greenside, I own Greenside, and so the considerable extension at Clifton is my adjacent house. However, although it's a large extension, I have one sole objection, and that is the garage. The garage is immediately on my boundary, and it will have significant impact on the lighting in my dining room and my sitting room. Mr. Whitcroft has recently erected a 6-foot fence right down the side of my house and at the back, which is within his right, of course, but the fence is within a metre of my dining room and kitchen windows. The garage on the front is going to impact on the sunlight and the daylight in my garden. And I have already reduced light, as I said. There are two viable, feasible other things that could be chosen. Firstly, Mr. Whitcroft is in the enviable position of owning 3 acres behind his house. There should be a place there that the garage could be placed, which would not impact on my garden. And secondly, the other side of the drive, where Mr. Whitcroft's father lives, the garage could easily be placed there with no problem. It would not impact on Mr. Whitcroft Senior. He has fully supported the plans and of course would want to support his son. So it is simply that, members, please could the garage be put either on the other side of the drive, away from my property, or in the part of the 3-acre land which is Mr. Whitcroft's property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I'd now like to open the debate. Councillor Winkless, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's just one thing I would like to have a look at again on the photos. Basically, listening to the next door neighbour, have we actually got a picture of how close this extension will be to the neighbouring property? Because they have some concerns about blockage of light, I understand.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's the garage which is the concern for the neighbour.
Right.
The extension sits on the opposite side.
Right.
So, unless I'm mistaken, I think it was the garage which was the concern in terms of the impact and the distance to the boundary and the impact on light. I mean, for clarity, the garage sits a metre off the boundary.
Right. Okay.
Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. One question, one comment. Have any light measurements been taken from the neighbour's dining room, I believe she said, to see whether the garage or the fencing that's there at the moment, how that would impact on the light penetration into the dining room? And the comment is, I'm very disappointed again, and this is a thing that both Councillor Booth and myself are regularly speaking of now, that the Parish Council actually called the application in, and there's no one here from the Parish Council to actually speak on the reasons why they called it in. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks. In terms of the fence, that's not part of the proposal when it's permitted development, so there's nothing to consider there. In terms of light reading from the property, no, that's not something that we generally do, and there's no sort of policy requirement to do that. I mean, what we've done here is effectively made a judgment based on it being single storey, set a reasonable distance away, and come to the conclusion on that basis that it wouldn't be significantly harmful.
Councillor Thompson, please.
Sorry, I came in late, but is it possible, I guess it's the garage to the right at the front, just to the right of the tree, that is proposed, is it, the garage-wise?
Apologies, could you just repeat that, please?
Is it the building that's just to the right of the tree? Is that the proposed garage?
Yeah, where the cursor is. Can you see the cursor?
Yep, brilliant,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
Is there an image of the front of the property as it is now before the garage? Thanks. Oh, I see.
So, yeah, on the right-hand side, yeah, effectively, roughly where the van is. Obviously, I haven't marked it out, but yeah, that will roughly be where it is, or proposed to go.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out, I have to agree with the neighbour that it'd be nice if the garage was to the left, and then the azimuth of the sun would mean that no one's at a loss apart from the builder of it, which would be quite nice. But that would be my view anyway, so.
Councillor Richard Palmer, please.
Yeah, actually, I'm very similar to Councillor Clark behind us, because I've written down light, but obviously a dining room isn't a livable room. But the lady did mention her living room. But I do agree with what the officer said. It's a single-storey building, but it's got a pitched roof. It is a shame that a light assessment wasn't conducted, because it would have been helpful, I think. But I do feel that the report has covered 99% of it. But what consideration should be given to the light? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the policy, I mean, we haven't got a policy which says that, that a light measurement needs to be taken. What we effectively do is that we take into account, the scale of the building, where it's located, the distance from the property, and then come to a judgment in terms of whether it's going to be significantly harmful or not. And as I said, in this case, we've taken all those things into account, and our view is that there wouldn't be enough harm here for us to refuse it on that basis. Thanks.
Councillor Harrison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an application before us which we have to accept or refuse. We are not allowed to amend said application. Perhaps sometimes, not necessarily now, but maybe sometimes it would be useful. When I read this report, I thought, when we get comments from neighbours, basically saying that next door has increased their size by their footprint by 50%. Do we actually check to make sure that they've actually had planning permission for it? Because, you know, I know that sometimes in these rural locations, people do things that maybe they shouldn't, and it isn't until somebody mentions it, like, let's be fair, drops you in it, that it comes to the attention of the authorities. So do we, as a general rule, check these things out, or do we just ignore it? Thanks, Chair.
No, we would, you know, check that out when we're looking at the, you know, the planning history and the application site. I mean, obviously, you know, as you're probably aware, if development has been there for a certain period of time and nothing's happened, it becomes immune from enforcement action. So that's a consideration. But yeah, in general, we'd take that into consideration. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else indicating. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kavanagh, I did have you on my list.
Just to say, looking on Google Maps, these are huge front gardens. I appreciate what the lady's saying, who lives next door. It would be a change, but within that, I can't see it making that much difference to the light. Thank you.
Thank you. If no one else is indicating, I'd like to take this to the vote. So we're voting on the officer's recommendation to approve. All those in favour, please show. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. Against? Abstentions? Thank you very much. That vote is carried.
Chair, sorry. Councillor Thompson, yeah, voted but couldn't because he wasn't in the room. But he just
So,
picked that
as I
up,
read
so-
out at the start, he was here. It says they have to be here for the whole of the debate. As he was here for the whole of the debate, I believe I'm correct, Philippa. He can vote as he's here for the whole of the debate. Yeah. So, but not controversial as it went through either way. Thank you. Next up, we move to item 5, and that is application 24/449/PNEXT, and that's at 25 Wilmot Road, Faversham. I'd like to invite the planning officer to provide a summary and any updates.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Bear with me, I'll just share the presentation. Okay, so there's no update to this. I'll just give a bit of background before I start. This is before the committee because it's submitted by a employee of the council, so it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And also, it's not a planning application. This is a prior notification under something called the larger homes extensions, basically the permitted development right, which is given to certain houses. Effectively, it says that you can do a bit more than usual PD if you go through a process of consulting the neighbours and no one objects. So that's why we're here. The consultation period hasn't finished yet, but we've had to bring it to this committee because it's the proposal gets deemed consent if it's not dealt with in a certain period of time. So that's why we're here. I'll just show you what the proposal is. It's a single-storey rear extension. This is the site location plan. So Wilmot Road in the built-up area of Faversham. Existing floor plan of the dwelling. So the room that's labelled garden room, if possibly no one can read that. The furthest right, the top right-hand corner, effectively, is proposed to be demolished. In plan form, that's on the left-hand side there. Sorry, in elevation form, that's on the left-hand side on the bottom left drawing. And the proposal, in its place, it's a single-storey flat roof extension, which meets with the existing extension on the site and squares it off there at the back. Elevation, again, bottom left. Doesn't look too much difference in elevation form because it's just projecting closer towards the viewer, effectively. But in terms of the photographs, as you can see, the existing conservatory is to be demolished, which is there on the left-hand side, and as I said, proposed to be replaced. So in terms of recommendation, we haven't received any objections yet, and it meets all the thresholds. So current point in time, the result would be prior approval not required, and they can get on with it. If we do receive an objection before the consultation period finishes, then what we'd have to do is obviously consider that objection and then consider it against our policies. So what we're seeking delegation for is to issue a decision saying prior approval not required if no one objects, and if somebody does object, we're seeking delegation to consider that and deal with the application in accordance with policy. Yeah, thanks. That's the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. No speakers to this, so I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Braun, I had your first name in my head, but not the last. Thank you. I'd like to open the debate. Councillor Winkless, please.
Thank you. I'll just very quickly. As you just stated, there's been no objections to this at all at this present time, so I can't see we've got any reasons to go against the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
We have no further speakers. I'd like to... Thank you.
As it's in Faversham, just so you got a Faversham councillor speak, to be honest. It's actually a decent proposal, to be honest. It's a good area, it's a good use of expansion, so I can't see why we wouldn't. It's only here because it's an officer, let's be honest.
All those in favour, please show. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's unanimous. Thank you, members. We now move on to the next item, item 2.1, and that is application 2.24/501/001/full, and this is Sheppey College Bridge Road, Sheerness. I'd like to invite the officer to provide an update, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just get the application, the presentation up. So there's no update for members on this one, so I will just move on to have a short discussion about the application. So this one seeks planning permission for the erection of a 2-storey extension to the existing college. So here we have the site location plan. The site sits within the town centre of Sheerness, located to the north of Bridge Road, bounded by the Tesco store to the north and a McDonald's to the east. There's also a council-owned car park immediately east of the college, which is a bit easier to see on this aerial image. And this car park is to be leased to the college in order to facilitate the proposed development. The site lies within Flood Zone 3 and is located roughly midway between the Miletown Conservation Area to the east and the Royal Naval Dockyard and Bluetown Conservation Area to the west. The college also forms part of the immediate setting of the Sheerness War Memorial, which sits roughly where my cursor is to the south of the existing public car park. So moving on to the existing and proposed block plans. The extension is going to be located on the eastern side of the existing college, 2-storey, and will also include a 2-storey glazed link, which will connect it to the existing college building. The development's going over partially located over the car park that's currently there, so it will result in the loss of that public car park, but also the creation of a smaller car park for use by the college. So here's some existing elevations of the college building and the side elevations there. And then moving on to the proposed elevations, the building will feature a flat roof with asymmetric parapet features to the northern, southern and eastern elevations. And as you can see from the coloured drawings here, there's going to be a mixed material palette used, though materials will be secured via condition. Here is some computer-generated imagery of the extension. So the first image on the left shows the War Memorial, and then the extension behind it. The image on the right shows the view from the new car park that will be created for the college, and you can see the existing college building on the right-hand side of that image. Proposed floor plans. So internally, the extension will provide 10 additional classrooms, a student centre, staff room, and a central common area across both floors. East Kent College, who run Sheppey College, wish to increase the number of courses that they offer and require additional space to do so. So this is why the applications come in, and it will be funded by the council's successful levelling up bid. Moving on to some site photos. So these were taken from the public car park looking west towards the existing college. So the extension on this left-hand photo, the extension will be positioned roughly where all these cars are parked at the moment. Here's views looking south towards Bridge Road. So you can see the rear of the War Memorial, roughly centrally located in that right-hand image. And this photo is on the left is showing the existing situation from the War Memorial. So similar views to what the computer-generated image was. And then also the one on the right looking north, and you can see the Tesco store in the background. So if I summarise the committee report, the development will support the ongoing function of the college by enhancing and enlarging its educational provision. The extension represents an acceptable design response relative to its surroundings, including the heritage features that are surrounding the site. We've received no objections from neighbours or the town council or from any statutory consultees, subject to the conditions set out in the committee report, and therefore it's recommended that planning permission is granted. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I'd like to open the debate. I'm going to start. On consultation, there's one round of consultation and no one responded, positively or negatively. Not the town council, not a resident. I'm disappointed to see that no comments at all, but perhaps everyone loved it, or anyone that hated it didn't want to tell us. Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, I went down there. I think you probably did as well when they had all the pictures and stuff, and I made my comments personally that I thought was good. Expansion of the college is long overdue. That has been a wasted facility for so many years. I could say it was a waste of SRB money, but there's been something there. And all this time later, I actually see, I think that this is going to make a real difference to the future of young people on the Isle of Sheppey. Not to say people from the mainland couldn't hike over, but it is mainly for people on the island. It should be a good facility. The actual spread of what they're looking to do is more, you know, it's not the hairdressing and car mechanics. It is actually much more thought through than that, and I just can't wait to see it built. So I suppose I've got a predisposition, and indeed most of the people on Sheppey should have a predisposition on here because they want what's best for our island. So I have seen nothing in this report, Mr. Chairman, to say, oh, I've got a problem. Thank you.
I understand you have a predisposition, but you're not predetermined. Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I just wondered if I could see the view from above again, just understanding south. And what's the materials of the roof of the building?
So there's the block plan showing the actual building. In terms of roofing materials, we haven't got anything secured yet. We will require the submission of those details via condition to be approved at a later date, which is quite typical on schemes of this sort of scale. Mm-hmm. So yeah, unfortunately at this stage I couldn't confirm exactly what they'll be.
Okay, no, it's only that for me it's a really good opportunity to showcase renewables and then obviously a low energy build. So that should be first and foremost in the design of the build. Once orientating a little bit differently, and then it'd be good to know what sort of roof materials they've got, what they're looking at thermal massing, what they're looking at for cooling and that sort of thing. Because I think they'll be really, really important, because we don't want to be giving permission for a building which then is just going to consume loads of energy. But I don't know, because I can't really see, so it's quite hard to tell. But if it was orientated a little bit more round, I think it'd be facing due south, which would help massively. So it could almost be sort of energy neutral in itself, really. But if that can be determined later, fine. But that's all that concerns me, really. Thanks.
Hopefully condition 10 puts your mind at rest. So the development's got to achieve a 45% reduction in CO2 emissions compared to the target emission rate as required under Part L of the building regs.
I was only to come back because that's really, really low. It sounds good, but in fact it's a bit like BREEAM. We're saying very good, but in fact it actually means average. So we want to try and step those up a bit somehow. And I think when it's a public building, we can, try and aim for better. That's all. And I just think let's make the most of it. But
I hope officers will talk to them about solar gains. Councillor Vallis, please.
So I just want to echo what Councillor Harrison was saying, and it's a great use of the land. Investment into the arts is a good thing, because not every student is academic, welcome it. Thank you.
Councillor Tucker, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to your original comments, I think it may allay your fears. It's potentially this is because it's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, please.
No surprise here, fully in favour on this one. Let's face it, this is the entryway to Sheerness if you're coming by public transport. And the number of times when I've got off the train at that location, and what you see behind the War Memorial is actually a load of containers in the car park, or people parking vehicles that shouldn't really be in a council car park. It's not that far away from the Beach Street car park, so we're not really losing anything in that regard. I think the overall design in itself is good to see. It's good to see some... I think there's elements there, the architect would say, of looking to the history of shipbuilding in the area, which is good to see, while still giving that modern turn. And of course, we can always see if we can get better energy standards and get that renewable, if possible. But we do have to bear in mind that there is a budget, and every penny that is spent on things that weren't in that original plan on the levelling up means something else has got to go. So as long as they are reaching, this is beyond BREEAM very good. I think it's the equivalent of BREEAM excellent, which which is still as average, but at the very least it's better than very good. Sustainability wise, I do get exactly where you're coming from. We should be aiming realistically for carbon neutral on all developments, and we should be aiming for energy neutrality on new developments. But given what this is going to do for the island, and I think for the people in the north of the mainland who are close by, I think it's a no-brainer.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt, please.
Thanks. I think something we just have to remember as members of the committee is that we can ask for solar panels and say that we want more and ask officers to go away and do that, but we need the policies in place for officers to actually be able to go and do that. So I think it's just important to remember the places to say all these things are when we start obviously doing the local plan. We want to get it in there. Until we do that, we can't be asking for it at planning committee. But as the application goes, really good, and I'm pleased not just that it's college is going to do good for the area, but also that it is a good design. And I think everyone that's worked on it has done a good job.
Thank you. I see no further hands, so all those in favour of the officer's recommendation, please show. That's easy, that's unanimous, thank you. Next we move on to item 2.3, application number 24/501/571/Full, and that's Masters House, Trinity Road, Sheerness. Would the planning officer like to provide a summary and any updates, please?
Thank you, Chair. There's no update for this application. So this application is a proposal for Masters House, which is a council-owned building located in Sheerness, and the reason why it's been brought to committee. The proposal is an amended submission to a consent granted in 2021 for the refurbishment of the main building, including the change of use of the garages to workshop studios. The amendments made under this application seek to alter the roof design of the garages, including changes to the front fenestration as well as a revised internal layout. The next slide is the location plan, which shows Masters House located on the western side of Trinity Road, with the garages, subject to this application, located to the rear of the building. In terms of planning constraints, Masters House is a non-designated heritage asset and forms part of the Sheerness Mile Conservation Area. It also falls within the Sheerness Town Centre boundary. To the north is a group of Grade 2 listed buildings, which includes Trinity Church. The site is also located within Flood Zone 3. So the main entrance to the site is via Trinity Road, between the southern side of the building and to the side of the old water tower. The site access road leads to the Trinity Place public car park to the rear, which serves the town centre. In terms of neighbouring residents, the closest properties are the ones, a scattering of flats that are located, above the commercial premises along High Street, which is here. And the other closest residential properties are along Trinity Street and beyond. Trinity Road and beyond. Let's have a look. Moving on to the development proposal, the slide shows the garages in their existing form with dual pitch roofs and a flat roof section abutting Masters House. Internally, the area is currently subdivided into 4 separate units. Regarding the external alterations, a hipped roof is proposed above the existing flat roof sections. This is considered to be an improved design of the lower pitch roof presented under the 2021 application. In addition, glazing is proposed to the frontage, including timber fascia panels immediately above the glazing. It is worth noting that although there would be an increase in the amount of glazing, the size of the openings would remain similar to the 2021 approval. In terms of the floor plan, the proposed floor plan, the internal arrangement would be reconfigured to provide a store, WC and kitchenette. For comparison, you can see the 21 consent, which shows the removal of the internal wall in that section and the large area mainly left as open plan. So in conclusion, the revised design is considered to be of an equal, if not improved, design quality to the previous consent approvals and is sympathetic both to the character and appearance of the parent building, Masters House, as well as the wider conservation area street scene. No adverse amenity impacts have been identified for neighbour residential properties, and the application would not give rise to flood risk or ecological or biodiversity concerns. For these reasons, the application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions set out within the report. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to move the officer recommendation. Councillor Harrison seconding. Thank you. Would you wish to speak?
Please, Chair, if you don't mind. I don't like those flat roofs. They are really a waste of money, so I'm glad that they've decided to change it, because they don't last as long, and the problems that you have. Let's be fair. We had it here. Say no more. The only thing I'd say is on these, and I'm not joking either, but all this glass, which looks lovely, and I do agree, why should we not have nice things because there are people out there who disrespect public property? What I'm thinking is they could be fitted out with like a reverse taser. So if you chuck I'm serious here. So you chuck something at it to try and break it, and basically you get zapped. because that will look nice. And why shouldn't our residents have nice? So a few people shouldn't be allowed to get away with all this sort of damage. And I'm sure there's something on the market that, you know, that would do that. So if that's just a suggestion perhaps you could make to the person who's doing the application, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Winkless, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm basically in favour of this. I mean, there's been a fair bit of investment put into this building from Swale Borough Council over recent years, because the building in actual fact was in an absolute state, I believe, and I don't think we've got any grounds to turn this down, and it's being put to good use, so I'm totally behind the officer on this one. Thank you.
Councillor Martin, please.
Concur, and good to see the kitchenette going in, because that actually makes the other 3 units far more viable. Let's face it, if you've got someone working with anything a bit dirty, you're not going to want them wandering in through the nicely carpeted areas to use facilities, and quite frankly they normally don't want to anyway. They want to get straight in, get their cup of tea and go back to what they were doing. So yeah, very welcome it, and it's an improvement in design, so let's get it through.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, please.
No, I sort of mirror that really. I think, yeah, the extra fenestration and windows would be great for light, because due to the large building being there, that must be quite sort of imposing. So I think it'll look nice. Pitch roofs, yeah, nice improvement. So.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker, please.
Thank you, Chair. At 7.13, it says about continue to respect the adjacent heritage asset. Have I missed that? Is that the water tower, or is that the Trinity Church?
Sorry, could you just repeat the paragraph?
7.13, page 55 of mine. I'm sure, unless yours is different. The proposal will result in improved visual impact compared with the extent permission, and would continue to respect the adjacent heritage asset. It would preserve the character and appearance of the conservation area, would accord with local and national, I assume that should say, planning policy in this regard.
Yes, well, Masters House itself is a non-designated asset, and then you've got Trinity Church, which is to the north, and that's a grade 2.
It's not the water tower.
So it's not the water tower. No, the water tower isn't actually listed or
Good. Thank you.
designation.
You answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you, members. So permission is delegated to the officers. Thank you all for coming this evening. We've got no part 6, so safe journey. Thank you.